Hey, how we going, guys? Mick here from Cartel, back with another kick-ass grain to glass. So I'm going to do a traditional bread Kvass, Eastern European style recipe. This one, I've scaled it up. I have also decided to run with a couple of different things opposed to or in line with that original recipe. The recipe called for 1 pound of bread, 3 litres of water, 2/3 a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of bread yeast, and flavouring to your choice. I decided to go with a 15 litre batch, which would have boiled down once I'd done the boil to around about 12 litres. I decided to use Fram Garden Kvass yeast instead of my originally planned Saison or bread yeast that these guys used, and I decided to go with orange zest and coriander seeds for my flavouring addition. So just a small amount of those flavouring additions just to sort of bring up the profile and the flavouring within the beer. It is a lighter style on alcohol and colouring, and so I wanted to go down that left field again, try and pick up a bit more of the know-how and experience of more of the historic sort of brewing recipes and left field type brewing, and put my new world spin on it. So 1.8 kilos of dark rye 5-seed bread. That was an accumulation of 2 loaves picked up for around about $1.50 each at the local supermarket. Wasn't sure how that was going to go. It was the only bread I could find with minimal amount of ingredients in it, so things like preservatives, other sorts of ingredients they put into it, like vinegars and stuff like that, which act as a activator for certain ingredients they put into different types of bread. So I wanted to get away from anything like that may have been in it that would inhibit the yeast too much. Being the Fram Garden flake yeast, and the thing's an absolute monster. It chews through just about anything you put in front of it, or you put it into, and so that was my choice for the yeast going into this style of brewing. So stepping away from as many of those added ingredients as possible with the bread, and running with orange zest and coriander seeds for the flavouring. So it's been stepped up in a big way. We'll see how this goes. We have a small amount of ale malt wort on hand to make up for those extra sugars, because we're not using the 2/3 cups of sugar that these guys used in the original recipe. I've decided to go with the addition of a fresh ale wort or wort to get that gravity up where I want it. The aim is around about a 1025 to 1035, depending on the outcome and the volume that we get from this. Whatever we get into the fermenter, we'll just adjust it as best way as possible to make sure we do keep it below the 3% mark. Ideally, I'd like anywhere between 2.2 to 2.5. That may not happen. This is a first for me. Sort of trying to understand the recipe a little bit more, and their process, and the way I've changed it. The way I've changed it may just not work, and we might have to step back and go back to doing it the way that these guys have done it, and that be a 4-hour soak in boiling water or overnight. Ideally, you're trying to get sort of a mild sour flavour coming across in the finished beer, and very much a lot of alcohol. Back in the day, it was quite common for kids to actually drink this stuff as well, being a table beer, so they'd have it with their lunch or with their dinner, and particularly the really low alcohol stuff that they actually gave to the kids. It was quite traditional for the kids to actually consume this type of beverage around the table. That's pretty much it. Enjoy the rest of the grain to glass as we move through the processes of making this traditional bread Kvass with a new world spin. Alright guys, so what we got here is the toasted dark rye, 5 grains plus the rye. Some of it is still a little bit sort of a little bit soft, but it is toasted. It tastes a lot different. Obviously, toast being toast and bread being bread. Once it's toasted, you do get more of that caramel sort of cooked flavour. So it tastes promising. That's all I can say. So here we have it. Not sure what it weighs now that it's been dried out. There's some really dry bits in there, which is good. And yeah, that's basically it. We're going to mash it in our Robo Brew here, and here we are, set for the next 4 hours. Cool, so we've just put the bread in. I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir and get it going. Now this will probably expand a whole lot more. We have switched it up a little bit. We've actually gone with 15 litres in here, because I'm still going to do a boil, which is not really part of it. So I guess we're not really going to be heading along those lines of a traditional Kvass, but it's still going to be a bread beer. It's still going to be a table beer. So we'll see how we go. And whatever sugars I extract from this, I'll adjust my addition of my pre-made wort, which is going to make up for those sugars that we need. See how we go. It'd be quite interesting to see what we can actually extract from this particular mash. Alrighty, so after we finished mashing, got it cooled, basically added the extra wort to the boil in around about 10 minutes to go. Yeah, come in at a 10:35, so a little bit higher than what we wanted. Didn't quite calculate that properly, but we're still within around about the 2.5, 2.6 mark for the projected finishing gravity. How we going, guys? Here we are, the tasting day for the dark rye Kvass table beer. Well, we expect it. Not a lot of clarity. It is cloudy. It is hazy in the bottle, and I did change a few things along the way. So we stuck with the original Kvass yeast addition. I then decided to, rather than add the orange peel and coriander directly after doing the mash to create a flavour, I actually done a dry hop addition with those sorts of ingredients. Didn't use fresh orange peel. I actually used dry orange peel extract, or what's known as sweet orange peel powder. You get that in a bitter edition as well. I do have plenty of that orange, sweet orange stuff out there in the kit. So I decided to go with that. I do have, like I said, I have a fair bit of it and I just want to get through it. So a lot of ingredients out there, probably starting a little bit stale. So using that's probably a better thing to do. I don't know what to expect from this. All I know is I want to get some coriander, some orange, and definite sour flavours coming from this Kvass, because that's traditionally the sort of flavours you would expect from it. Has been in the bottle for 3 days, and I do have quite a few smaller 330ml control bottles out there to test as we go. Also, the rest of it's gone into larger 660 and 500ml bottles. Those ones will be sort of kept aside. We'll keep playing around with these 330ml ones and get it to the optimum carbonation point, and then refrigerate it. Traditionally, it's served basically off the bench top. Once a certain carbonation's reached, it may be refrigerated, but yeah, it's normally around 3 days by the time it hits the table, and the guys are sitting around consuming it. So fingers crossed, we get something that's going to be remotely close to the description we have received online. So here goes. Cool. Hiss. 3 days and a hiss. You know, I'm not expecting a lot of carbonation as mentioned, so nor is the colour exactly what I want it to be. Looking at it now, well, poured very juicy looking. Not a lot of carbonation there. It does have the a lot of proteins in this. I'm guessing is more to do with the bread. Another thing I did was actually cold crash. Not something they probably traditionally do either. But I wanted to try and get some more clarity into it if possible. It might still drop out in the bottle at some point, depending how long it's kept there. But at this stage, look, it is what it is, and very much an experimental thing for me. I'm happy with the whole process and how I've done it. The taste is going to be proof in the pudding, proof in the bread. Aroma. So I'm getting the toast and the bread, the coriander and the orange. That's coming through ever so slightly. There's something else there, but and it is actually more like that sort of that sour note, sort of bready sour note you get from a sour beer. Sort of a low soured beer is more of what I'm thinking of. It's a little bit herbal as well. I don't know if that's just coming from the sweet orange peel powder, or it's something coming across from the bread. But it is there. It's got a little bit of lacing, a little bit of carbonation. Proteins are sort of sitting there on top as well. Taste. Cheers. Oh, yeah, straight away, hits me up in here. And that, a little bit on the tip of the tongue as well, that is a sour note. That's exactly what we're looking for in this particular beer. That, with a little bit more carbonation, that's going to be a really nice beer. It's just lacking slightly, I think, with the coriander and the orange. I think there's probably two additions I think is going to suit this beer really well, is the use of coriander and this sweet orange powder. I'd like that to be there a little bit more. So the use of 1 tablespoon of coriander seeds crushed and 1 tablespoon of the sweet orange peel powder added as well as a dry hop, certainly going to work. I don't know, last time I used that sort of powder, I didn't use as much, but it wasn't very pleasant in the beer, and I feel it's more like most things like spices and stuff. It's when you actually add heat to it or toast it and do anything else like that to it, that's what increases the aromas and flavours and intensity of the actual ingredient. So if I'd actually used it in the hot side of this particular beer, it might have been a hugely different outcome. So I'm pleasantly surprised with the sour notes coming across, the subtle flavours of the coriander and the orange, and I think I've made the right choice. I like it the way it is. I just want a little bit more in there. So maybe half a tablespoon of each more would suit it nicely. So I'm definitely going to do it again. I've noted what bread I used. Whether I get it on sale again or not, that's another thing. I'll keep an eye out each time I go into the supermarket and hope that I can pick it up. Even still, it was $1.50 a loaf on special. It's $3 a loaf, $6 all up, plus a little bit of ale malt to make a 1035 wort to add to it, sort of in the end. That all taken away from the other additions of the original recipe of adding 2/3 a cup of sugar and sourdough yeast and so forth. That'd be really nice to try that recipe to the exact, even scaled up. But the one that I've got here, the one that I've done, I'm quite happy with. It's going to be a pretty good low alcohol summer beer. We still came, like I said, we came in at it just on the 1035, so a smidge over on the refractor. Refractors don't give you a true reading either. You need to get a graph and calculate exactly where your gravity is with a refractor. So in the hydrometer, we ended up, it was close to saying that the very point was certainly within that 1035, just sort of nudging that little bit over towards a 1036. Finished off, we are still sitting on something that is a little bit over 2.5%. Finishing was, we're probably looking at around about 2.8, which is still under 3%. The guidelines pretty much are where traditionally a Kvass would end up, but there is some that are 0.5 or 0.05 to 0.5 and past that up into the 2.2. So it's not a bad thing to be sitting where it's sitting. It probably helps to balance it out a little bit more. Just have that little bit of alcohol tone in something that doesn't have a lot of flavour. I don't want the orange and the coriander to overpower the flavour of that bread either. So it just might be better off to leave it where it is, or just go a smidge more coriander and orange. But other than that, I'm very, very happy with the sourness that comes from it. Is spot on. Like they would explain within those recipes that you want to get that sour note, and it's definitely there. That sour note has come through really, really nicely. I think it needs to stay where it is. It is a bit, like I said, it is a bit flat on flavour, but it's probably very much within that traditional flavour scheme or profile for that particular beer. Very, very happy with it, and I will most definitely brew it again. Cheers.